Hey, this is Kevin with Consumer Reports, and I'm down at Clearwater Lake, and I'm doing my range testing on the Griffin Optimus or Griffin Armament Optimus suppressor. You can see the box right here, and this will be part 3. It's like a 3-part review series. The other 2 parts I really spent more looking at it from a bench or from my workbench at my house. So right now I'm in the process of shooting my Remington 700 AAC-SD rifle here in 308. I installed the minimalist brake on the end there, and I set up here to shoot targets down there at 100 yards. And so I just got through shooting 2 different groups here, and the first one I wanted to shoot, and I was shooting 168 grain boat tail hollow point match Hornady and ammunition here. Where's it at? Right there. And so my first 3 shots I wanted to just recheck 0, because you know, when you sit down and try to put 50 inch-pounds of torque torquing that muzzle brake on, I just wanted to see if there's any shift, and I hadn't rechecked 0 in a while. So I did have some lateral shift in my 0 here. So that was 3 shots right there, which I'll correct for eventually. And this was without the suppressor. Then I came over here and I shot actually 4 shots with the suppressor installed. And the first shot was very surprising. The first shot, for some reason, ended up right there. And then I was like, man, this is going to be great. There's going to be no shift when I install the suppressor on this rifle in my 0. But then the next 3 shots ended up landing right here, which clustered into a good group. So what I'm going to have to do is go through and go through another cycle and shoot it some without the suppressor installed and with the suppressor installed, and see if my first shot is doing the same thing. I'm also going to go through and make sure that I've got everything tight inside the suppressor. But after the first shot with the suppressor installed, which was here, then it grouped 3 shots at 100 yards right there, and to me that looks like that's about a 1/2 inch group for 3 shots. Now, looking at the data on velocity, what you're going to see here is that the velocity, I haven't averaged them, but there may be a slight increase if I go through and punch the numbers, but not a lot in the velocity. These 4 shots were with the suppressor installed. These 3 were without. They were very, very close, but I think there's a few feet per second potential increase with the suppressor installed. Temperature right now is 27.9 degrees C, and it is humid as crap. I'm down here at my lake. You can see here, it just rained, everything's wet, and I'm just trying to get in some range testing. Unfortunately, I only brought 1 tripod, and I want to keep capturing some chronograph data. So I set up the camera over here to the side to try to catch some of the sound that's coming off of the suppressor. I'm going to shoot the 308 with the same 168 grain, clearly supersonic ammunition at without the suppressor to let you know what it sounds like, and then a couple of times with the suppressor. This is without the suppressor installed. Do it one more time. Okay, now I'll install the suppressor. Now I'm going to give it 3 shots with the suppressor installed. these were the results of what I just got through shooting. These two here on the left, right there, were the two supersonic, and I did adjust for the zero some. I'll probably go one more click down at 100 yards here, but so those were two that was the supersonic that I just shot. And now surprisingly, here are the three that were the supersonic with the suppressor. Now this is what I got before here, and actually when I removed the suppressor to go back to shoot this group right here, what I found is that the suppressor itself, the front part of the suppressor here, was actually not as tight as there was maybe a little bit of looseness. So I'm wondering if after that first shot I had it snug but not snug enough, and then for the remaining shots it actually caused a shift. Now here's the dilemma that I'm in. Man, I was too optimistic right here. I only brought that much ammo for this particular round right here. I've got some other stuff, some of my hunting rounds, but I really need to study this one quite a bit more. But my first impressions are, for the rest of my range testing, I'm going to ensure that both parts of the suppressor here, when I install it, that I don't just tighten it here, that I grab up here and make sure I really got it firmly tight to include this joint right here. So I'll keep watching that and see how that plays out. One more comment that I've got is that this rifle, that rifle right there, I've been shooting it for years now. It can shoot. I know that for a fact. And that 3-shot group right there, that 2-shot group right there can help substantiate that. So my point is that, which is odd, I shot that 3-shot group here when I had the shift, when it might not have been 100% tight. But now, when I think it's tight, I shot this group here. So, again, I've got to do some more study. And if you're, if you've gone out and you've been range testing your own Griffin Optimus, please, post in the comments in the video down there to either set me straight or to let everybody know what your findings are also. Now, I'm going to repeat the same thing I did with those 168 grain bullets. I'm going to repeat it with some reloads right here, and these actually are some 150 grain Hornady soft point interlocks. And this is my hunting round. This is what I use, and you can see I got plenty of these, so I got a little bit of time to study with these. These two groups here were shot, and these are the 150 grain soft point interlocks, and this is without the suppressor, and this is with the suppressor. So a couple of things. Number one is that clearly this ammo doesn't group as good as the 168 grain match. All right, but it's effective. I can shoot deer with it. But so this is 6 shots right here. So I shot 3 without the suppressor. I shot 3, installed the suppressor, shot 5, took the suppressor off, and came back and shot 3 again. Now, yeah, you could say I should have installed the suppressor to come back over here. For this group right here, I made sure that that suppressor was tight. I mean, it was. I cranked on it pretty hard with my hands, every joint, and it was tight. Now, a couple of things to note again: group size, roughly the same group size. There is shift. Clearly, I think you can see there is some shift up in the group size. It's not a lot. My point here is that, if you are going to shoot or hunt with a suppressor, you need to make sure that you've gone through and done your range testing for yourself with your rifle to see what kind of shift that you're going to have with the suppressor installed, so that you can compensate for it with your zero. Now, just for fun, I loaded up some 168 grain boat tail hollow point match bullets to a subsonic load, and I'm going to go through and shoot these and with the suppressor on, because that's probably the only time I would shoot them, just to kind of see how it sounds. It should sound extremely quiet because it's a subsonic round, so it's not breaking the sound barrier, and with the suppressor installed, it really should have a nice quiet sound. I've got some subsonic ammunition here, that I loaded up that I'm going to shoot through my Remington 700. These are 168 grain boat tail hollow point match, and they should be in a subsonic range roughly around 1050 feet per second approximately. Wow, that was quiet. It just didn't even seem to be it didn't even seem to be true. That one came in at 1081 feet per second. Now that I don't believe that first shot even hit my paper, so I'm going to aim a little bit higher on that. I don't believe that shot hit paper anyway. 1089. All right, for me to dial in the those subsonic rounds, these were my last 3 shots right here, and it took about 14 MOA up and about 3 to the right to be able to get those dialed in. And man, those were super quiet, weren't they? I mean, I don't know if you can tell on video, but they were super quiet. Now, one of the things I do want to point out is that you can actually see that that the bullets weren't fully stabilized. That's a 1 in 10 twist in the barrel. It's a 168 grain bullet, which defines a length, and the velocity was around roughly around 1060 would probably be an average, and they're just not stabilizing with this configuration. But that's really not, that's a whole different different issue there, I think, potentially. But I'd really have to shoot, and maybe I'll do it tomorrow. It's getting towards the end of the day. I'll have to shoot the rifle without the suppressor installed to see if the stabilization is just inherently with what I'm shooting as far as the bullet, twist, velocity, or if there's some impact, or not impact, but influence with the suppressor. So I've got the suppressor removed, and I'm going to fire a few rounds down there with my subsonic ammunition to see if I'm still having stability issues with this particular round, just to see if there was any influence with the suppressor versus without the suppressor. Alright, 3 rounds should be enough. And then I'll go see what I've got. Okay, those were the 3 rounds I just shot, and you can tell just by the shape of the hole that's coming through right there that there was some yaw into the bullet. So in my opinion, the suppressor had no influence on the amount of yaw, just based on this this quick observation. And it just looks like, you know, that's a 1 in 10 twist barrel, and I think I probably should have probably closer to a 1 in 8 twist for this velocity for that that length bullet. But anyway, so you can see this. You can also notice that I'd already gotten a 0 with the suppressor installed, which was approximately here, But to me, without the suppressor, it looks like there's been a slight shift to the right in my zero. One of the things I want to make clear on this video, or my range testing, is there's a lot of range testing out there for suppressors. And again, I'm looking at the Griffin Armament Optimus suppressor here, and probably some of the best information I've seen out there is on the Military Arms channel. And you know, when you start looking at the data, you're going to get somewhere in the we'll say 135 to 140 dB level with supersonic ammunition through the suppressor when you shoot it, which is good and is in line with you know, we'll say most of the legit suppressors that are on the market today. For my range testing, what I'm really interested in is, I've already got the suppressor, I own it, so I'm going to live with whatever sound suppression level that I'm going to get out of it. And based on everything I've seen, it's in line with the market. Again, the Griffin Armament Optimus gives me the opportunity to do a lot of different calibers. So for my range testing, and you're probably going to notice this throughout, I'm more interested in the impact of the bullet when firing the rifle or whatever it is with the Optimus. Now I'm going to try to also show some video to give you an idea of the differences in sound levels. Now, one more point is that, you know, to really accurately and legitimately measure the differences in sound levels, you got to have some good equipment. And you know, if you see anybody out there doing it with an inexpensive, we'll say anywhere between $100 and $300 dosimeter, they're really not giving you the data that you want. There's a mil spec out there which talks about measuring sound pressure levels, and there's equipment. I think Larson Davis makes a unit, and it costs around $3,000, and it's what you can use to be able to test the sound levels for suppressors to what I think the current military standard is. And don't have one of those yet. Maybe one day if I can get enough subscribers and get enough money. But until then, you know, I think this is still giving you a pretty good idea on what you're going to get with the suppressor installed versus not installed. Overall, you know, I've shot here of this 308 rifle here, and this is one of the platforms that I wanted to shoot. And I installed the minimalist muzzle brake here on the end, and shot subsonic, supersonic with suppressor, without the suppressor, and clearly the subsonic just is like it's just crazy quiet, and I hope that came out in the video. The supersonic ammunition, yeah, it's definitely a lot quieter. You know, I could shoot that without earplugs on, and it wouldn't be a huge issue for a few rounds. Still, when you start getting up into the realm of, you know, 135 plus, you know, if you shoot a bunch of rounds like that, you might end up with some hearing damage. So I would still recommend using earplugs, and that's going to be up to you. Another point I've got is that with any of these suppressors, you're going to have to spend your time at the bench, and hopefully it's obvious from just what I've shown right here. You're going to have to spend some time at the bench shooting different rounds down there, understanding any velocity differences if you're going to shoot at anything that's going to be longer range, and understanding your zero shifts. To me, you know, I fired, I don't know, maybe altogether I'm guessing maybe 40 rounds maximum, and what I proved to myself is that, yeah, I need to spend more time at the bench. I'm not exactly sure how long this video is going to be, so there's, depending on how it trims out, this may be just the range testing on my 308, and I may break it up and do some more. I'll just have to see. But if this is the only thing that's on this particular video, I want to thank you for watching it, and please like or subscribe or both, and I'll try to keep bringing you detailed reviews. Thanks.